After 11 exhausting rounds of IVF, a year of overhauling my nutrition, cleaning out the toxins in my home, doing every single thing the doctors and specialists told me to do, and 1,000 more little sacrifices no one ever talks about, I had started to believe that maybe motherhood just wasn't meant for me. My body was tired, my heart even more so. Every month had been the same cycle: hope, waiting, and then heartbreak. My days revolved around pills, injections, early morning blood draws, and nights lying awake wondering if my dream of holding a baby in my arms was slipping away for good. Friends would post baby announcements, family would give well-meaning advice, and all I could do was smile politely while my insides crumbled. But this morning was different. At exactly 11:45 a.m., I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the tiny digital screen in my hands, my breath caught somewhere in my throat. 1 minute, it was just a blank little window. And then, yes plus. Just like that. 2 simple symbols that meant my life had shifted. My vision blurred instantly with tears, my chest felt like it might burst. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. I scrambled for a pen, drew 2 tiny hearts on the back, and scribbled the date and exact time before carefully tucking it in my bedside drawer like it was the most precious jewel I'd ever owned. Then I turned to Jeff, my sweet, slightly overweight golden retriever who had been my shadow through every heartbreak, and pulled him into my arms. "Jeff," I whispered into his fur, my voice cracking, "I'm gonna be a mummy." He wagged his tail like he understood, and in that moment, it felt like the whole world was holding its breath with me. And then, the doorbell rang. It startled both of us. Jeff barked like a maniac, spinning in little circles while I wiped at my face and hurried toward the door. My heart was still racing from the test, so at first, I thought maybe it was a flower delivery, or a neighbor, or maybe even my husband somehow surprising me early from work. But when I opened the door, nothing. No one on the porch, no packages, not even the sound of retreating footsteps. Confused, I stepped out onto the front path, scanning the yard, the street, the driveway. Completely empty. I stood there for a few seconds, the air cool against my damp cheeks, and finally turned back inside. That's when my gaze fell on the doorbell itself, sitting quietly on its charger by the kitchen wall. Not even on the door. My stomach tightened, and a slow ripple of unease rolled through me. The rational part of my brain immediately tried to explain it. Maybe the event log was wrong, maybe it was a random electrical glitch. But when I checked the digital log on my phone, my skin prickled. There it was. A doorbell ring recorded at 11:45 a.m. The exact minute I found out I was pregnant. I stood frozen in my kitchen, clutching my phone, my heart thumping in my ears. And then, just as quickly, something softer bloomed in my chest. My husband's grandmother. Oh, she was a character. A bright, stubborn, endlessly loving woman who had taken me under her wing from the very beginning. She'd passed away over a decade ago, but her presence in our lives had never truly faded. On her deathbed, she'd squeezed my hand and told me that when we bought our first house, she would come visit and make a nuisance of herself so we'd know she was still with us. Over the years, little things had happened: her favorite song randomly playing on the radio the day we signed our mortgage, a faint smell of her rose perfume in the hallway when I was alone. But this was different. This was timed perfectly. This was her. And I knew, deep in my bones, that the ring I'd heard was her way of saying she was here, that she knew, and that she was just as overjoyed as we were. I didn't tell anyone about the doorbell right away. The pregnancy was still brand new, delicate, and somehow I felt that if I shared too much, too soon, I might break whatever fragile magic was holding it all together. My husband, Matt, came home later that evening, and I handed him the test with the 2 little hearts on the back. He just stared at it for a moment, as though his brain couldn't quite process what he was seeing. Then his eyes filled with tears I'd only seen once before, at our wedding, and he pulled me into the kind of hug where you feel your heartbeat sync with the other person's. We stood there in the kitchen, Jeff wagging around our legs, and for the first time in a very, very long time, hope didn't feel dangerous. It felt real. It wasn't until later, when we were curled up on the couch, that I told him about the doorbell. "That's weird," he said at first, his brow furrowed. "But, not impossible. Maybe a glitch." Then, I saw the moment it hit him, the way his eyes softened, the corners of his mouth twitching into a smile. "You think it was Gran, don't you?" I nodded. At 11:45, I whispered, exactly when I found out. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, if anyone could find a way to ring a doorbell that isn't even attached, it'd be her. We laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that dismisses something, it was the kind that says, I believe you, because I feel it too. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My mind was still replaying yesterday in vivid detail, the flash of Yes Plus on the screen, the sound of that phantom doorbell, the feeling of her being near. I padded into the kitchen to make tea, and there on the counter was a single yellow tulip in a little glass bud vase. I froze. Matt was still asleep, I hadn't bought it, the vase was one I didn't even recognize. I touched the tulip's petals, half expecting them to dissolve like a dream, but they were firm, cool, and unmistakably real. A shiver ran through me. Maybe it was just a neighbor's kind gesture, but deep down I knew it was another nuisance, another hello. Over the following weeks, pregnancy settled into my life in small, surreal ways. The nausea came, the cravings arrived, peanut butter on crackers at exactly 3:17 a.m. became a non-negotiable, and every doctor's appointment felt like stepping into a sacred space. But alongside the joy, there was this quiet, unshakable sense of being watched over. Not in a scary way, but in the way a grandmother watches over you while you learn to bake cookies, ready to step in, yet letting you find your own rhythm. Some nights, I would catch a faint whiff of rose perfume in the hallway. Once, Matt swore he heard humming coming from the nursery we hadn't even finished painting. At my 12-week ultrasound, the baby's tiny heartbeat filled the room, steady and strong. I remember clutching Matt's hand and thinking, she's here too. She's hearing this with us. And maybe that's why I wasn't entirely surprised when, that night, the doorbell log recorded another ring at exactly 7:12 p.m., the same time the technician had announced, there's your baby. The bell didn't sound in the house this time, but it didn't need to. I knew. Months passed. My belly grew, my world narrowed down to nursery colors, prenatal yoga, and counting the days. And then one morning, right before my due date, I woke up to find the tulip vase, now holding a fresh red rose, placed on the dresser in the nursery. I hadn't heard anyone come in. I hadn't even told Matt yet that I was starting to feel those first faint contractions. It was her way of saying, it's time, love. When our daughter was born, Matt held her first and whispered, Gran, she's perfect. I don't think either of us will ever be able to prove what we believe in our bones. Maybe the scientists would call it coincidence, maybe friends would just smile politely when we tell them. But for us, those little moments, the impossible doorbell, the tulips, the rose, are proof enough. She kept her promise. She came to visit. And in some small, impossible way, she was there when our family truly began. So yes, the weirdest 2 minutes of my life began with a doorbell that shouldn't have rung, but it turned into months of knowing we are never really alone. And if you've ever had something you can't explain, something that feels like a warm hand on your shoulder when no one's there, you'll understand why I believe every single second of it. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real, heart-touching moments like this, don't forget to subscribe hit that like button and share your own experiences in the comments. You never know, your story might just be the next one I tell.